All right, I might start tonight's event. Welcome, everyone. My name's Jackie. I'm a staff member at Moonee Valley Libraries. Welcome to tonight's author event with Julia Busuttil Nishimura, who's here to talk about her latest book, A Year of Simple Family Food. I'd like to start by respectfully acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that I'm broadcasting from. The Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, their spirits, ancestors, elders and community members, past and present. Moonee Valley is really proud of its diverse community, and we acknowledge the contributions that all people make to our vibrant and inclusive municipality. Tonight's event is going to be an in conversation. Julia and I will have some chats. If you think of a burning question you'd like to ask us, about halfway through, we'll take questions from the audience. So Julia Busuttil Nishimura is a Melbourne-based writer and cook, and her cooking champions simple seasonal ingredients and really uncomplicated and unfussy recipes with a relaxed kind of family vibe. Julia is strongly influenced by her Maltese heritage and also time spent living in Italy. She has thus far published 2 highly acclaimed cookbooks, neither of which I have with me, sadly, because they've been just so popular. So Ostro in 2017 and A Year of Simple Family Cooking in 2020, and also has her blog, which is also called Ostro, and a really lovely social media presence as well. So welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much, Jackie. So nice to be here.
So I'll start by asking you how your early cooking experiences have sort of formed and shaped the way you cook now.
Yeah, I mean, growing up as a Maltese young girl with, 2 Maltese parents, food was always such a big part of of my life. Not just the everyday kind of cooking that we were doing, but, we had a really big family. So Christmases and birthdays and get-togethers and gatherings were always kind of centered around who was bringing what were we cooking. It was always, all of the aunties in the kitchen preparing, typical Maltese dishes. So I remember being really little and I always just felt so comfortable in the kitchen, and so at parties I was kind of the youngest of all the cousins, and it was kind of my little happy spot. I would go and find myself in the kitchen with my auntie, helping her make the ravioli, which is like these Maltese essentially ravioli. Or even when we used to spend a lot of time at the Maltese Club, the cultural centre growing up. My dad was very involved in the cultural centre, and so we would spend Tuesdays there, and we'd often go on the weekends. And, I would always be in the kitchen with the chef, kind of at the base of him, looking at what he was doing. I was always just really interested in food and cooking. And so that was, I guess, my entry into cooking was through my family, and those are the memories that really stick out for me. I think, I don't remember a lot of my childhood, but the things that do stick out are, I grew up down near the beach in South Australia. And so, walking down to the beach to collect seawater to make ricotta, potting the broad beans with my grandmother. Those kind of little memories are what I really hold on to, and what really, I remember of my childhood. So that was kind of the first chapter, I suppose, of my life, of my cooking life. And I just, my mum was really encouraging. I had kind of devoured all of her cookbooks, by the time I was in high school. I'd kind of read all of her cookbooks and was ready for more. And I really always loved cooking. So
did you have any kind of gatekeepers in your life that were sort of holding those treasured recipes really close, and you'd say, "Oh, teach me how to make this"? It's like, "Oh, well, it's a little special, little pinch of this," and not.
Yeah, I think especially with a lot of migrant cooking, there isn't written down recipes. They're very oral, and they're very just kind of like you learn by watching. They don't even explain to you orally.
Yeah.
You just have to
you got to keep up.
You keep up and remember it, and then if you're like lucky, you can write it down. But there wasn't. My mum is a really brilliant cook, and she would often cook Maltese dishes, but also food from around the world. She used to work for Qantas in the 70s, or TAA it was back then. And so she kind of had kind of a sprinkling of all these different foods that she would kind of cook, French onion soup or tagines, just like little things that she'd picked up, around the world. And so she kind of introduced me to a lot of different flavors. But I didn't really, it's only now as an adult and now that I'm a mother that I am going back and trying to collect those recipes from my childhood, because I suppose I didn't really have an interest in documenting them or trying to learn how to make them until now it's kind of come full circle. And
has your kind of way of cooking changed as you've, kind of hit milestones of adulthood and, being out on your own and then having a family? How's your cooking kind of changed with those bigger life changes?
Yeah, I think, definitely, when I was in my 20s and I was a uni student, it was, I always loved cooking, but, there were some weeks where, we didn't have a lot of money and we were going to the Vic market and kind of, just buying what was really cheap. And it was very, I lived in share houses and we would cook together, and it was always very comforting and cheap and really, satisfying meals, which, is a thread through my cooking now. Like that hasn't necessarily changed. I really lean towards not using super fancy ingredients and hard to find and expensive produce, because that's just not how I cook on a daily basis. Like I have a family and, I appreciate that a lot of people shop at the supermarket and not everyone has access to, heirloom vegetables or
finger limes.
I think it's amazing. And I think the more we add those kind of things in cookbooks as well, the more they do become available, generally speaking. So I'm not like adverse to using, I guess, unusual because, they're not unusual to everyone, but, different or new ingredients. But I think, my 20s, I was very focused on university, and it wasn't really, I wasn't a full-time kind of, slow cooking kind of person. And I think when I lived in Italy at the end of my studies, that's when I got back in touch with that kind of seasonal local style, that kind of idea of shopping locally, shopping in season. That became really paramount, and it's kind of how I grew up eating. But it, again, that circle, you kind of come back to what you know, and it kind of rejuvenated this idea of seasonal, simple, delicious food, which is kind of now, what I'm, I guess, known for, essentially. And then again, when I, met my husband and we were, going to Japan, and there's that kind of theme of, really seasonal and simple food. And I think now as, hurry up, the game, my little one's coming. Sorry.
Bummed.
And I think now that I have, 2 young kids, I when I'm writing my books now, it's definitely with that kind of mindset that, like, time is very subjective, and people have different ideas a relaxing thing is to cook. And I'm just, I think, a bit more mindful of that kind of the ideas of what people enjoy to do and what I enjoy now. It's kind of changed a little bit, I suppose. Like I don't make fresh pasta as much as I did even when I had one child compared to now. So yeah.
And do they, I think your little one's probably too little, but does your oldest child, is it relaxing when he's helping, or?
Sometimes. So he's 5 and very keen, and I try and, foster that as much as possible, because, we all know how important it is to kind of encourage kids to be in the kitchen and get messy and experiment and taste and touch and feel things. So I definitely, it's not relaxing though. It's relaxing when we're doing something like, okay, today we're going to bake some cookies together. And, there's no pressure, it's a relaxing activity. But when I'm, trying to shoot a recipe, or I've got a deadline and I'm trying to, get something, it can be a bit stressful. But he's a really good help, and he loves, shelling the peas and helping chop a little bit now. And I think he eats better when he's involved in it. He'll try new foods and, it can be fun. It can be fun. But I think because I do it for work, there's the blurred lines.
Do you see cooking more as a sense of you providing for others, or, if you're to quote like a feeder, or is it more about sharing the actual process and having, heaps of people in the kitchen and you're all kind of doing it together? Do you find a distinction between those two?
Yeah, I think inherently I'm a provider. I think that is, as much as my mum did encourage me in the kitchen as well, it's like, it was her space to be cooking and providing for us, and to be preparing these beautiful meals for us. And I think I've taken that on a little bit. I love, for me, cooking is such an act of love and generosity. And in that sense, I'm sharing. I feel like I'm sharing that, joy and love and providing. But I still do enjoy, having people help out. But there is a part of me that is, wants to kind of have it all done, ready to go. But I think, inherently I am a provider. But I hope through my recipes, I am sharing, that love that people then can share with their family. So,
was, writing cookbooks always your career plan, or did you sort of fall into it through the social media and then the book came? And what was, how did that career path take shape?
Well, so after school, I had plans. Well, my original plan was just to go to Europe and stay there for, a year. I ended up coming back a bit earlier, and I took a bit of a gap year, and I was going to go into kind of hospitality or tourism. Like, I really loved cooking. I'd done it at school. I did hospitality. And then, I don't know, something about Italy, I just completely fell in love with it when I went. And I really wanted to learn Italian. I really wanted to go back and, be able to communicate and be able to buy things at the market. I got over to visit my sister who was living there, and I was, just seeing her interact with people at the market and the restaurants and on the trains. I don't know, there was something so alive about being in Italy and feeling really part of the culture. And so after that trip, I was like, okay, I want to come back and study Italian. So I did a Bachelor of Arts in Italian and politics. And then in between that, I did a study abroad. So I went to Florence, and then I lived in southern Tuscany for a little while. And then, I was originally just going to go back and teach English, in Italy. Like, I didn't really have any plans, as, you often don't when you do a Bachelor of Arts. But then I did my Masters of Teaching, and I became an Italian teacher. And I taught Italian for about 5 years, I think, in a primary school. But after Italy, I kind of started Ostro. So I started the blog, and it was very basic. It was like a journal of recipes. Slowly, I got an Instagram account, and I started writing for a few small publications, and it kind of just really happened really naturally and organically. And I actually met my now publisher, at the Carlton Farmers Market. So she Melbourne, very Melbourne.
Yeah.
She, kind of had like a juice stand on the weekends with her partner who worked at a market. She just came up to me and we got talking and kind of that's where it happened. It was really, I thought, I just never thought that I would be able to write cookbooks. People to me who wrote cookbooks, people that I read and admired were people like, Stephanie Alexander and Jamie Oliver and Nigel Slater. They were the kind of, and, the River Cafe books, like they were the books that I had like first bought, when I was 16. And it just seemed like such a different feel, such a different level and different, just I never had that, expectation. And so it was so wonderful and just so I feel super grateful that kind of I had this opportunity because I think it was a bit of right place, right time. I'm just so grateful that it's all happened.
And have you had much of an opportunity to sort of meet those, if you do a food festival or something, if you're meeting some of these people, you're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, last year I spoke on a panel with Stephanie Alexander and Emiko Davies, who's a wonderful cook, and I think that was and Sylvia Coloca. And so that was, incredible. And I, said to Stephanie, I was like, I would love to give you my book, and she's like, I already have it. Yeah. I'm like, oh my god. And she's super lovely, and just those people that I really admired, and I had similar kind of, with when Ostro came out, and I was basically unknown. I had a small following, but basically unknown, and so I kind of tried to send my book to a few food people, and like Jamie Oliver was very, gave me a little glowing quote, which was lovely, and so did Nigella. I think she reached out on Instagram after she'd seen my tiramisu and was like, I'd love your book. And I'm like, oh my, they're the people that you really admire in the food world. And it was very, very exciting and humbling. And so that's, I think it's nice because I think as a home cook, you often, I do anyway, have for a long time seen myself differently to, a professional chef. Often you can think that you have, less skills or, less know-how, but I think there is something really special about home cooks and the way that we write books, essentially, I think very in tune with the readers. And then I realized all of the books that I love are usually from, not professional chefs. And so, it's been really nice to kind of feel like I'm on the same level as, some of my peers. I mean, I wouldn't say Nigella, but some of my peers around in Melbourne and, what have you. So it's been a really lovely journey.
And given that your partner's a chef, does that lead to kind of any not disagreements, but is somebody, are you being shown up with your knife skills or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Nori's a chef, but he's originally a teacher too, from Japan. So, but he has impeccable knife skills and impeccable like organization and just anything. Like I made a pavlova and shot a pavlova on the weekend for my column on the design files. And like, I don't even bother. I was like, can you cut the mango for me? I just know he'll do a really good job. I'm really quite, a rustic cook, and anything like that, I will definitely get him to do for me.
Presentation skills.
So he's a very, big support, and we bounce a lot of ideas off each other, and especially with the Japanese, obviously my new book, A Year of Simple Family Food, has quite a few Japanese recipes. And so it's just like really great to be able to cook things and get his initial feedback. And I never want to, do disservice to the food we eat at home, because it is essentially, the kind of food we eat all the time. So I want to make sure people can, feel comfortable recreating it.
If you're very stretched for time on a random random weeknight, I've got 20 minutes to get dinner on the table. What's your sort of go-to recipe?
I mean, 20 minutes, it would usually be pasta. So it might be a sauce. In my first book, there's a sauce with just cherry tomatoes. It's cherry tomatoes, basil, garlic, salt, and a lot of olive oil, and you just put it in a cold pan, you turn it on, and it kind of starts slowly and then creates this beautiful sauce. So while that's cooking, you can, cook the pasta and it happens really quickly. Or similarly, I make like this lemon mascarpone sauce, which you don't even need a pan. Things that sauces like a pesto or, just chopped fresh tomatoes with marjoram or oregano and some garlic, and, you put the hot pasta in and it's almost like a pasta salad, but without being, yucky. I feel like pasta salads have really bad connotations.
Pasta salad, gosh.
In summer, I kind of like just warm pasta, with some red wine vinegar and olive oil is really good. If I have a little bit long, I'm just going to like push out the time limit a little bit. I'll do like a one pan roast chicken, but with thighs. So, kind of all in the pan. I might put some like parboiled potatoes, cherry tomatoes, lemon, oregano, and just kind of whack it in. I love oven cooking.
Tray bakes.
Tray bakes. I just love it because I think, I posted the other day, I said, when I'm unsure of what to make, I always do, if I've got friends coming over, I make roast chicken because it's just it's no fail, and it just gives you time to, do whatever else you need to do. You don't need to be standing there. Maybe one day I'll write a book on, oven food, because I think that's why I maybe couldn't live in Japan, because like none of the houses have ovens. I love my oven, which I
do love a tray back. So obviously this year a lot of people have moved towards picnics as catching up with friends and family, because it was for a long time it was the only thing we could do.
Yeah.
Have you did you find yourself going like all out, like really pushing the boat out and taking these elaborate picnic sessions, or was it, a couple of sandwiches and
Yeah, I mean, I've never appreciated sitting on a patch of grass like I have until this year. I mean, we're very lucky, we live in Brunswick and very close to some really beautiful parks. So, we have done some really good picnics actually. Lots of salads and kind of a lot of we've been doing a lot of soba salads, which are really great to transport. What else have I been making? I've been making like iced tea to take, which is delicious. I actually did a picnic feature for Good Food, which was really fun, and that kind of reads you, like that was kind of just before we were opening, like everything was opening up. So a lot of salads. We just really went hard, on the salads for picnics. And sandwich I love. We've been making a lot of sandwiches too, actually, like tonkatsu, so like katsu sando, chicken sandwich. A lot of chicken sandwiches, but also I have an 11-month-old, so there's a lot to bring. It's a lot to
like everything down to the park.
But it's good parks. Picnics have been really fun this year.
And do you think, again, sort of touching again on the very unusual year we've had, and people are cooking at home a lot more, and it's how does that kind of mean for slow cooking? Is everything now slow cooking because we can start preparing dinner at sort of 2 or 3 o'clock because who's going to catch us?
It's so interesting because for me, I think of when there's like slow and cooking, not necessarily like cooking something for 5 hours, but I think more of like slowing down in the kitchen a little bit and kind of appreciating those small moments. So I feel like people have definitely done that a little bit more. Like I think people, when we could only go out for grocery shopping, it became an actual event to go to the fruit and veg shop, which often people thought as a chore, but then it almost became this like joyful experience. I mean, I don't know about joyful, but like a pleasant, maybe, I don't know, actually. For some people, maybe not. But for me, that's something that I struggled with during lockdown, because I spend a lot of time grocery shopping and talking to people and going to like 5 different markets and traveling across the city to pick up, to go to the fishmonger that I like, for example. But I think people really, started shopping really locally because we had to.
Yeah.
Really finding those producers that they might not have ever even noticed in their neighborhood. And I think, I just noticed so many people, cooking, things that I just think they probably never have cooked. A lot of people making pastry and fresh pasta and baking bread. We saw the whole sourdough movement. I think it was as much as it was a really difficult time, like I think, and I hope that this kind of idea that cooking can be such a balm, in difficult times, but also, such a really relaxing and, a moment to take for yourself and to slow down. And, it might not always be that way, 5 o'clock on a Wednesday or something like that. But, I think if this year's taught us anything, is that food is at the center of our, days and world. And I think people have really found a new appreciation for home cooking and sharing meals with friends and family. So
it got to the point, sort of deep in stage 4 lockdown, I was baking almost every lunch, almost every lunch hour. And I come back in the afternoon and, speak to a colleague and they're like, and what's for afternoon tea today? And I'm like, biscuits, cake. I've stopped that now.
But I think, it does, and it was like the one thing that felt predictable, that, and I think that's what, for me, I've always cooked, cooking has always been a really relaxing and comforting thing to do, that just the act of cooking, more than anything, because it is really predictable, when I'm deep in, my baby not sleeping or a difficult day, I just know, if I know that I mix butter and sugar and eggs and flour and lemons, I'm going to have a cake, just something so predictable. And I think it really throws me actually when my recipes don't work, because I'm like, it's meant to work. That's the thing that I can control, but no.
Did you have any big failures?
Yeah, I have
recently,
actually.
and is it the worst thing ever?
I really hate failing in the kitchen, because it's, what was that? What was I trying to make? Oh, I've gone blank now. There was something though, and I can't remember. That's terrible. But anyway, I was doing something. I think it was a cake maybe, and it just wasn't right. It just, what was that? I can't remember. But anyway, I do have them. Not as often, as not that often, but especially with baking, or I was trying to make this like braised beef in coconut, and it just didn't work. And I was like, usually I'll just get, I'm testing for my new book, so I'm just, if it doesn't work like first or second time, I just feel like it's not meant to be, and I just won't persevere unless it's something that I really want. Like with my first book, and with Ostro, the gnocchi was really hard to get right, to kind of articulate that for a reader, because there are so many variables depending on the potato and the flour and how big your egg is, and how, if you've too much water is kind of seeped into your potatoes. And so I tested that maybe 10 times, because I was like, I just have to get it as clear and easy for the reader. And that's such a simple recipe, but some of those ones where there's no room for error or nowhere to hide are harder to kind of articulate. But And
did you find when after you'd written and published your first book and preparing for the second one and a third one, did you sort of learn was there a big learning curve that's tapered off now that you're like, I've got one in the bag, I can do this book writing thing?
I think partly yes, partly the the process and, what the stages are, which when I was flying blind with Ostro, and it kind of really happened quite quickly. It was quite a quick, process from writing. I almost had a back catalogue of recipes that were ready to go. So it was quite a quick process of writing, shooting, editing, publishing. Whereas A Year of Simple Family Food, we shot over 8 months in 3 separate shoots. And yeah, because it was seasonal, it was quite a lot more involved to kind of balance it out. I found, that was a challenge to make sure that within each season, I kind of had the balance that I wanted. Whereas with my first book, it was in very traditional chapters, so I could clearly see it. And I think but I think it's one of those things that, personally, I write it and then that stage is kind of done and put in the bag, and then we move into the shoot. And now I'm back at the writing stage, and I was like, haven't I learned? I'm, writing down notes, and I still haven't really, I would say, got a really good way of keeping a tab on things. It's kind of a very good, reflection of, I guess, my mind, that it is kind of, I come up with ideas, maybe at the market, and I would write it in my notes on my phone, and I would have thought I would have learned by now, but it is easier. I think knowing the process and having the same team and knowing how long things take me, because it's easier for sure. But in some ways it's harder, but anyway, that's another conversation.
We might move on to questions because we are about halfway through, and we do have a question there. So we have someone who said, I'm afraid to invite friends who are big foodies over for dinner because I assume they're going to judge my very unprofessional cooking skills. Does being a cook change the way you think about other people's food, and is it hard to turn off the professional critique?
Do you know what? we don't get invited to dinner that often to people's houses. And it makes me a bit sad because I love, a sausage roll as much as I love, going out for dinner to a nice restaurant. And I think, I'm a home cook at heart. So, I do love good food, but I also just love, being in someone's home and, being cooked for and, sharing a meal with somebody. It doesn't even matter what they're cooking, as long as it's edible, I don't care really. So I think, just cook something that you love and that you are happy eating. And I know that, usually people will be happy to eat it too. I think it's not the time to, try and pull off something super fancy, because I think it won't relay as well as you'd hope. So I think just keep it really simple, good quality ingredients, and I'd be happy. I'd be happy with a wine and some salami, so.
I always find it really fascinating to kind of get a perspective on how other people cook, because I do a lot of cooking, and I do most of the cooking in my household, but then I'll go to someone else's house and just sort of think, see, I would, I'm not the sort of person who'd do a meze or a tapas or something like that. And then I'd go to someone's house, it's I would never do that. That's really good.
I think it's very inspiring. And I think, I just think don't worry about what they'll think. And I think people are usually very appreciative of being cooked for and being in someone's home, and also just pour them some wine before or something, and they'll loosen up after a few drinks.
Everybody booze. All right, everybody, if you've got any more questions, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A. But in the meantime, I'll keep asking Julia, what's planned for the next book that you've got in the pipeline?
So before that, actually, we're I'm pretty sure I can say we're re-releasing Ostro, actually. So Ostro is going to be re-released early next year with a new cover and just a bit of a redesign, which I'm really excited about, because it has that paper cover, which it will no longer have. It'll just be similar to A Year of Simple Family Food, with the flaps and a bit more sturdy in the kitchen. So that's really exciting. I kind of can't wait to see that side by side with the new book. But yeah, the next book is still very much in its infancy. I'm testing, and we don't really have any, kind of key like message yet kind of planned. It's very, the way I work is I kind of start with all the recipes I want to put in the book, and then together with my publisher, we kind of look at, maybe how we're going to package it up essentially, because she's always led by me in what I want to put in the book. My publisher never says like you need to do a book of 100 gluten-free recipes, so thank goodness. So yeah, it's going to be again, my kind of food, which is simple and delicious. I think, no matter how many books I write, I just know that will always be the thread, because it's just how I cook. It's going to be, there's always going to be that seasonal element, even if it's not packaged in seasonal chapters. So, stay tuned. It's still very much in the early phases of planning, but I'm really excited to be testing and writing another one.
We've got a few more questions there, which is great. Please keep them coming. Yes. We've got a question. Who are your favourite food bloggers, and do you borrow cookbooks from the library?
Who are my favourite food bloggers? Oh, I love Jules. It's Jules Kitchen, Juls. She's an a Tuscan food blogger, and she has been writing her blog for I think about 12 years. Which is really fantastic, and she's just really passionate about Tuscan cooking and the markets, and I just love the way she writes, and I love the kind of feeling that she has around food. I really like Sophie Hansen, who's local, is lovely, and from Orange. She's just, really, really lovely food writer and person. I have to think, because I feel like I don't spend that much time like reading food blogs compared to cookbooks. To be honest, I have some overdue fines at my local library, so I haven't paid. That's really bad. From a long time ago, but I haven't. Okay, I'm going to pay those this week. It's been a good reminder, but I usually I don't really borrow cookbooks anymore. I used to when I was, back at uni, but now I think because I don't know, I really like I love we borrow a lot of kids' books, and we go to the library for run time and things like that. But I really love supporting my local kind of like indie booksellers. So try and buy cookbooks. But my local libraries are great as well. So
the running joke at Moonee Valley Libraries is that we don't bother with getting a sales rep from publishers or distributors to do cookbooks, because I usually put in requests for them before we get to that. So
know what you want.
If anybody in Moonee Valley likes our cookbook collection, I'll take that. That's fine. So I've usually said to them, we need to get this book.
Yeah, I think it's so important. And I used to borrow cookbooks all the time, when I was at uni and when I didn't have overdue fines. But that's really naughty. I don't know if I should have admitted that.
It's fine. There's a teetering pile.
I lost when I was teaching, I lost a CD, and I'm sure I got lost at school, and I just could never find it, and it was somehow really expensive CD. I don't know. I need to. Back when we were using CDs, a long time ago.
In the last century. We've got another question asking, is Michelle McIntosh doing the Ostro redesign?
Yes. Yay. Love Michelle.
Library shouldn't have fines anyway. I agree with you on that one, actually, to be perfectly honest.
Me too. I use my 5-year-old's library card.
You can see that's the hack that maybe people don't realise. If you get fines on one card, just use the other. And another question: do you and your husband ever play MasterChef at home and get to judge?
No, no, not at all. But I remember when we were first dating, we used to write down country names, and every week we'd like pull one out of the hat, and it was like we'd cook something from a country. But when I was a kid, I used to have cooking competitions with my sister, and we used to it was essentially the mystery box challenge. Like we just have to use what was in the fridge or something, and we'd have who could make the best, and then my mum would judge us. So that was before MasterChef was around, but and I remember clearly because I made spaghetti with this. You had to be really creative, and I made spaghetti with the seeds of the capsicum, terrible, inedible. Yeah. But my mum was very, polite and nice about it.
I once made a very large batch of miso soup.
Yeah.
And I would have been a teenager at the time. I didn't really understand. I'd been to Japan, but I didn't really understand what miso soup was. And my mum, she's a good mum, she had it for lunch for a week straight. Yeah. Bless her.
Bless.
I can make miso soup now. It's fine. Another question. What do you feed your 11-month-old?
My 11-month-old. I try and give him what we're having. Like tonight we had some flat iron steak. So he had some steak and we had charred broccolini, and he had some broccolini and mashed potatoes, which he didn't like because I don't know, we've never really given him mashy food essentially. He's always baby-led weaning and, eating bits. So he didn't really like the mash. He loves fruit, as most babies do. He loves banana and nectarines. But, yeah, I tried to give him what we're having. Often he'll have a snack plate for lunch. So boiled egg and cucumber and, I don't know, sometimes I make him pancakes with grated zucchini in it and stuff like that. Yeah.
Grated zucchini goes in everything.
Oh, so good.
Spaghetti bolognese, we've learned this year from That's What I Reckon.
Oh, I haven't seen his show. I need to watch it.
They're really, really good videos, but my partner was on board until it got to the no zucchini and the bolognese, because my partner makes spaghetti bolognese in my house. And he does.
And he puts zucchini in it?
He does put zucchini in it, and he was just no, that's
I mean, if we're going traditional, I personally, definitely not. But if you're trying to hide veggies into your kids' food, which, is fine every now and then go for it.
And what's on your table, going to be on your Christmas table this year? Anything new, or do you keep with the just sort of traditional dishes?
Yeah. We kind of do a similar thing every year. So I usually start with oysters and prawns and make a tartare sauce, and we kind of start with that. And then we usually do a porchetta and just salads. I make this nectarine salad every year, which is just nectarine and mint and kind of this brown sugar vinaigrette, or a bit of brown sugar and mustard and olive oil and vinegar, which is delicious. And then, potatoes, that kind of thing. And then we usually do pavlova for dessert, and cherries and things like that, and have pandoro as well. But this year, I don't think we're going to do any meat. I actually have a ham in the fridge already. So I think we're going to have maybe ham, but I think we're going to do a bit of a cold seafood feast. I feel I've done, I've already cooked 2 Christmas hams for work, for jobs. I've already made a trifle. I've made a pavlova. By the time Christmas, I love Christmas, but this year's been very heavy on the pre-Christmas cooking for work. Yeah. So, I think we're going to do lots of seafood, some Moreton Bay bugs and prawns and scallops, and just keep it really simple, and so we can all just sit back and have a champagne and
Very nice. Another question, and please keep them coming. What will be going into your 5-year-old school lunch boxes?
Oh, so you often will either make him a sandwich, so Vegemite and cheese. Vegemite and cheese, or cheese and tomato cucumber salad type sandwich. Or he'll have rice, like if we've got leftover rice from dinner, he'll have rice with like edamame and seaweed and sesame, and kind of just like almost like sushi rice type thing. And then in all the, like, they have all like little compartments. So he'll have, you know, lots of chopped veggies. He might have a boiled egg and only eat the white. She doesn't really like the yolk. And then, yeah, just fruit. So he has, it's, you know, he calls them extras. So he'll have like, yeah, apple, banana, and then probably some like chopped fruit as well in his lunchbox, like nectarine or...
Do you think you'll go full bento mum and put little, you know, eyes on your cherry tomatoes and with tweezers or that sort of thing?
No, not at all. I mean, if we do, I mean, sometimes actually Nori makes, like cuts the apple and makes little rabbits. And sometimes he does stamp the carrots into flowers. Which is very sweet and does make him eat it more. He's actually a little bit picky now at the moment. Like, he kind of went through a phase where he would eat anything, and now he's getting a little bit picky with like textures and things. So we're just kind of riding that wave a little bit. But, you know, he has a pretty bright, colourful lunch, and usually with a sandwich, which is, you know, we have a really great bakery around the corner and they do really good sourdough. So it's very normal standard lunch, I think.
Like cheese and Vegemite though.
Yeah, I mean, delicious.
Did you find any new habits or new techniques this year in the kitchen? Have you sort of found a different cuisine that you're suddenly obsessed with, or anything like that?
Not so much a new cuisine, but I bought like beautiful copper jam pan. Yeah, which was
insanely jealous.
Yeah, I like wanted one for so long, and I tried to find like a secondhand one, and I was like, I'm just gonna buy one. Like, I'm just gonna buy a new one. And so I bought a beautiful one maybe like 3 months ago, like during the proper lockdown. And so we've been making jam, which has been really fun, because I had this dream where I was like, maybe I can open like a jam shop. But I was like, I don't really know that much about jam, to be honest. But I have been making jam, which has been really fun. So like today I made some blood plum jam.
Oh, very nice.
I'm going to make some apricot jam.
Yeah,
we're going to go
berry fruit.
Yes, we're going to go berry picking in a few weeks and get some strawberries and things. So yeah, that's been my new, and it's so relaxing actually, like the whole process of like sterilizing the jars and
I used to make apricot jam with my grandmother when I was little, and it was a very strong sense memory of that. So I got my first jam burn today, which is officially inducted.
I feel like inducted. Yeah, exactly.
Very nice. A couple more questions. Yeah. Do you imagine moving into TV?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I would love to. I love doing videos, and I would love to. But yeah, just got to wait and see what happens, I suppose. I would love to. So if you're watching, and
any producers in the audience. Another question, what's your favourite local restaurant or cafe? Do you have a go-to order, or do you order something different every time?
My favourite the bakery I was talking about is called Wildlife Bakery, and it's awesome, and they are like a dangerously 2-minute walk from where I live. So I love they have these chicken baguettes, so they make amazing bread, and then they do these, it's like a roast chicken with just cos lettuce and just like a really good like dill mayo, I think. So I got that a lot during lockdown, which is super delicious. But I'm kind of spoiled, I'm in Brunswick, and there's a lot of good places to eat and go to. So, but yeah, that's my go-to. Like, I go every morning for coffee, and they make really good pastries. But lately they make these really good, pies with like a side of salad, and I've been getting that lately too. So yeah, mixing it up.
Slightly following on from that, do you have your favourite producers? Like, you mentioned your fishmonger before. Is there you've got sort of your
yeah.
favourite places to get your supplies, for want of a better term?
Definitely. So I mean, I love shopping at the farmers markets around, but I don't always get there. You know, they're only once a week, and you have to be, you know, there at kind of 9 a.m, and I don't always get there. But I do love going to the farmers market because I think it's, especially for me, like writing new recipes, it is really inspiring to kind of, you know, come across ingredients that I might have never cooked with before. But generally speaking, I really like the market. So I really love Paran Market, and I really love Vic Market for fruit and veg. But I also like Donati's for meat on Lygon Street, and also Meat Smith on Smith Street is really good. My favourite greengrocer shut down. It's like 2 years this Christmas, and I'm still like lamenting. They were on Lygon Street in Carlton, and they were like my absolute favourite. They just had everything, and they were so lovely. So yeah, I'm always a bit stuck for fruit and veg now, but yeah, Clifton Hill I go to a little bit. Fishmongers, I really like Ocean Made in Collingwood, or Claringbolds in Paran Market. Hagen's is really good too. Yeah, I don't know. There's lots. We're really spoiled. Yeah, Doc is really good deli. And Carlton.
I know what you mean about losing your favourite shop. I used to, every weekend I'd go to the old Min-Fat Asian supermarket at Queen Vic Market, and they closed and demolished that building. I've been lost ever since.
Honestly, it was just the best. Like, I remember doing a story. I had to do a job on potatoes, like a whole kind of 5 recipe kind of story, and they just like ordered me in all these different potatoes, and like, oh, they were just the best. And like, just the rent just got so high, and they're like, you know, they'd been there for 30 years anyway. I was like, if my husband knew, I was like, you know, lamenting over this, like he's heard me talk about it for 2 years. So. But it was just my favourite greengrocer anyway.
It's been. I know that Richmond is a bit of a trek for me. I do it about every 6 months or so. I get all. It's not the same as being at Vic Market. I'm not over it, clearly. What else do we have? Any more questions? We've got a little bit of time to go. I'll ask another question while we're going. What's been your sort of favourite thing to make recently? Are you still doing sort of the family favourites, or are you just like, no, we will eat something new and interesting every day?
Well, now that I kind of went really hard during the lockdown on recipe testing, and then I felt like I was burning out a little bit. Like, I was doing a lot every day, and then plus with, like, as soon as the new book was released, I kind of went really hard, and I was like, okay, I need to like take a step back. Like, I've just put this out, you know, just take a little break. And so I wouldn't say lost my mojo, but I definitely like didn't have the same, like, you know, enthusiasm that I normally do for cooking, which is very unusual for me. So I did take a step back and like let Nori kind of take the reins for a little bit. But now I feel like I'm back in there, and we're kind of eating some nice new food every day, which is what I like. I have my favorites, of course, but you know, that cherry tomato pasta I mentioned like is delicious. But, you know, on the weekend, what did I make? I made these amazing like fried sage leaves. Like, you batter really big sage leaves and then deep fry them and in olive oil, and they're so good. So we kind of had that for like aperitivo, and then I made this really good like fish seafood broth thing, which I was testing. And yeah, I think when I have time to make new things like that, I get really excited about cooking and making new things. But we definitely have our favorites as well, like. Yeah, and rice and miso is like our backup if all else fails.
We've got a little bit of time. Oh, we've got some more. Oh, controversial, pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, I mean, it's tasty. I like, you know, if I feel like if you're going to a pizzeria that like has that, I feel like they must do a good job of it, and like I would eat it for sure. You know, I grew up in like outer suburbs, Adelaide, and then went to school in country Victoria. Like, there was I've had my fair share of pineapple and pizza. I'm not adverse to it.
I agree. I like pineapple and pizza.
I wouldn't always, I would usually go for a margarita, but yeah.
And when international travel opens up, where would you go and what's your dream trip?
Oh gosh. I would love to go to Italy, back to Italy. My partner's never been to Italy, like Europe yet, so I would love to, show him kind of the places where I love. So yeah, going down to Puglia and kind of, I think we'd love to just rent out like a villa for 2 weeks and just stay in the one spot and do some little day trips. Yeah, definitely like Sicily, Southern Italy I'd love to go back to, but also Japan. We've got so much family friends there that haven't met Yuki, and that kind of seems a little bit more doable at the moment, like if that's going to happen sooner. So yeah, or maybe New Zealand, I don't know, wherever we're allowed to go.
I bet everybody's expectations have lowered. I don't want to say lowered, it's not quite the right thing, but it's like, I think I'll actually, we've had it, I think we've all had it in the back of our minds that we could go to New Zealand anytime, but now it's like, I might move that trip to New Zealand up a couple of pegs.
Or like, okay, yeah, Perth. Like, which is, I want to go anyway, but like it was, we're like dying to go back to Tassie now, which we love, and we go, been a few times. So maybe Tassie. Yeah.
We might be just about done for questions. If you've got another burning question, please pipe up. Otherwise, we might be wrapping up. Give you all a couple more seconds. All right. I think we might be done. So awesome. I would like to take another opportunity to thank Julia for joining us this evening. I've really enjoyed it. I've been looking forward to this for some weeks. As I said to Julia before we started, I'm a bit of a food obsessive myself. So I've really enjoyed this evening. I hope you have too. Keep an eye out for the poll that's going to pop up any moment. We do love your feedback. And particularly this year, we have really kind of done things that we've never done before. So if you think, I really love it if the library did this, but I really don't think they will, just ask us, because that's basically been our year, is doing things that we never thought we would. So by all means, give us the feedback. But I would give a round of applause, but I don't think it works in this moment. But thank you so much, Julia, for joining us.
I had a really lovely chat.
And please feel free to come along to any of our events in the future. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone.
Thanks, Jackie. Bye.